Welcome to Black Tokyo, the podcast. I'm your host, Eric L. Robinson.
And I'm your co-host, Tash. Let's define Black Tokyo.
Black Tokyo, the brand, started actually 25 years ago, January. And Black Tokyo started as a BBS, a forum, where brothers and sisters that were interested in Japan had a place to go to and have their questions answered. We morphed from a BBS to a dating site, and then to a blog, and eventually to a YouTube channel. Had a pretty, I think, good presence on Twitter at one point, where we had like 6,000 followers or whatever, tweeting, a variety of information and everything. But slowly transitioned back to YouTube, and this is where you find us right now.
Wow, 25 years.
25 years.
That's
yes.
Amazing. Has it always been called Black Tokyo?
It has. So Black Tokyo, I get lots of questions. Why Black Tokyo? Basically, it stems from anytime you look up information on Japan, it's not from our perspective, right? And I wanted to be specific in keeping the name Black Tokyo, let it know it was about us. And why Tokyo is because the person who actually created Black Tokyo, Craig Nine, lived in Tokyo. And I came on the blog as a moderator. And eventually, Craig went on to do other things, and I was able to retain ownership or gain ownership of Black Tokyo, and we grew from there.
That's amazing. I think what's great about the name is that, again, this is all about perspective, right?
Right.
So we're gonna be real frank and honest here.
Yes.
Yeah, you can make it about race, but it's so much more than that. And I think that's the beauty of it, the color in it. And I love what you said the other day. You said we're providing color to the story.
Right. And so with that, what I mean by that is provide the rest of the story. So as you know, the history of Japan, Africans and people from diaspora, we've been dealing with Japan and the Japanese for a very long time, right? And so that goes back, during the time of shoguns and everything to the forced opening of Japan. There was a former indentured servant who was here in Japan prior to Perry.
Wow.
Just things about history, about Japanese being enslaved in Yokohama and being known for jazz, for example. What's the backstory, or the black story, as I call it, with us being involved in that. So there's a lot that Black Tokyo in that aspect can provide, and I think it's important for us to get our story out there and keep our story out there.
Yeah.
Right.
And one thing in particular that I want to touch on is the store.
Okay. Yes. So Black Tokyo was incorporated as a business a little bit over 5 years ago, and the main company, Black Tokyo GK, we provide products and services to U.S. forces here in Japan, and also Singapore and Guam through our relationships or partnerships with like the Navy Exchange or Morale, Welfare, Recreation, Child Youth Program, or DECA, which is the commissary to supermarkets. And that's me as a Marine Corps veteran giving back, so to speak, right? I hear a lot of we can't find or I can't get, where I have a lot of resources, being Japanese companies that are eager to do business with the U.S. military in Japan, but have difficulty. The store came about, the Black Tokyo store came about, where Japanese were asking me for items that we were providing to the U.S. bases, right? And they don't have access. So I'm like, okay, let me give you access via the store. On the flip, a lot of the buyers or contracting officers on base don't have time to go to trade shows.
Yeah.
So I'm like, let me bring the trade show to you by opening a store and put new Japanese products that you can come take a look at, touch, and then order to provide to the men and women that serve the U.S. military and also dependents.
Oh, that's awesome. And I know that it's also morphed into a brand.
Yes, definitely. Black Tokyo is a brand. As I said, 25 years old. And right now we have, like on the YouTube channel or in the store, coffee cups, t-shirts, things like that. But also we've had Skajans made, the embroidered jackets, which, we sell in the U.S. military bases. And Also, you're able to get here at our company. There's products coming up for coffee, for example, where we're going to do a collaboration with Peanuts, and I'm interested in having Franklin and Black Tokyo, Afro Eric, on coffee products and other things to provide that here in Japan, because no one else has it.
Yeah.
You know, I have it, and I Black Tokyo, so Black Tokyo has it. So things like that.
Yeah, I think that's so cool, and I just want to make sure everybody's aware too. He's talking about Peanuts, the cartoon, not the actual Peanuts.
Yeah. Thank you. Yeah, thank you for that. Yes.
And I think that's awesome because that's such a American culture cartoon.
Right.
It represents a lot of people home.
Yes.
And it's also our home too.
It is. And with the Japanese, Peanuts as a cartoon, as a brand is big here in Japan. However, I don't see us. There's never Franklin. So until I had Franklin put on the Karakuri Tamashi t-shirts and had that for retail, there were no other products. And so again, it's not staying in my lane, but I'm providing again more of the story, more of, hey, here's Franklin, what's the significance of Franklin in the whole Peanuts story? Why did Charles Schulz put him in there? So just educating the manufacturer, for example, first on that was very interesting in itself. Betty Boop, for example. Betty Boop is very popular in Japan, but no one knew that she's biracial, she's a Black woman. Yeah. And so when I was purchasing product, actually I was offered the product and I said no. But I said, but if you just use a darker thread on your products, I'll purchase it. The manufacturer looked at me like I was crazy. And I said, hey, here's Wikipedia, and like, that shock and awe, so to speak. And so we sold Betty Boop products via the Navy Exchange, for example, jackets, t-shirts, and sold pretty well. But again, just providing the rest of the story.
Yep, and bringing it to the forefront.
Yes.
Because it's there, the story is there, it just was hidden.
Yes.
And you bring it to the forefront, which is awesome. So elaborate a little bit more and tell me, why do you think people need Black Tokyo now?
From what we do as a trading company, provide all the Japanese fresh milk to the US bases here in Japan, for example. I'm the only company that does that. And there's other things that are needed on the base that, since I'm a local company, I don't run into logistics problems, for example. So if the supermarkets on base or the stores on base need something, I typically have a very fast turnaround. I'm able to get it. Or I'm able to go out and meet with Japanese companies and other foreign companies, but specifically, say 90% Japanese companies, negotiate with them and then get items that are needed to support the US forces here in Japan. From a store, I think it's good because Japanese can come into my store and get what I call a taste of home, right? Yeah. I only play soul music in my store, so you'll hear Motown from Detroit. So you hear Motown in there, and just you're able to vibe and sort of get away from Japan by walking through my doors. Yeah. And then giving them also some American products. I can promote an American product. I can promote American culture at the same time. Wines, I'm a wine lover. And as you know, in Japan, Japanese will buy their French, Italian, Australian, New Zealand wines and not even have an idea that California wines are great, or Oregon wines are great, or wines from Michigan, Washington State, New York, that type of thing. So again, I'm able to expand minds, win hearts, hopefully, by, again, promoting America, but more importantly for me, promoting us in a positive light.
So you're talking about expanding minds.
Yes.
So tell me, whose minds are we expanding?
Everyone's. So not just the brothers and sisters that are out there, but those who have a curiosity about us. So for example, when I was blogging, the majority of my followers weren't Black, they were white. And that was surprising. And the comments I would get, oh, I didn't know that about, for example, you, or about Black people. The Japanese, the comments like that. Oh, your English is different, so I'm able to learn English because, your pronunciation or whatever, that type of deal. For Michigan, it's considered standard English, right? But they're learning English and they're learning history, and again, just more about us. So I would say Black Tokyo is for everyone. It's more importantly for people like me when I was 17, first coming to Japan, to learn more about the country, the people, and the history.
And it's such a diverse culture as well. I think people think it's one-sided and there's just one type of person here in Japan. It's the complete opposite.
Right, that's right.
It's a melting pot.
It is, and it may not be the same multi-pot as in the United States, right? But with the Japanese, with the Okinawans, with the Ainu, with the Zainichi, the Koreans who were born here in Japan, the Chinese who were born here in Japan, the people who come over here from various countries, Japan is changing, not as much as the U.S., for example, but it is changing. The dynamics are shifting in various ways. As you know, it's an older culture, right? It's an older country, I should say. The people are older, and that's a problem for the workforce, right?
Yeah.
You have an influx of foreigners that are moving to Kyoto, for example, and that whole vibe in Kyoto is changing, where there's backlash with the number of foreigners coming in, buying properties, and just changing the whole flavor, for example. I'm a firm believer in keeping your culture. However, I'm also a believer in evolving.
Yeah.
Right? And Japan, I feel, will not survive if it doesn't evolve.
Yeah.
There's a lot of the old guard still there, right? So the younger voices are coming into the politics, for example. The workforce is slowly changing. One of the most underused resources here in Japan are the women, right? Especially moms. And so Japan is still dealing with that issue, how to deal with that. So so Black Tokyo is for everyone, and hopefully we can hit upon topics that would be of interest to everyone.
Yeah, and speaking of topics, so we're starting a podcast.
Yes.
Why a podcast?
So with YouTube, I not so much have been lazy, but I just did not have the time to post, right? I love to talk. I think most people who know me know I love to talk. And so a podcast, I think, is a perfect avenue to get, not, of course, my voice out there, but the voices of others that are here in Japan that can help educate others on a myriad of topics. And why a podcast on YouTube? Because YouTube outside of Google is the second largest search engine, right? And so I think that a podcast that you can use across various social media platforms, and specifically it's on YouTube/Google, or was it Alpha, I think?
Yeah.
Is, the chance to disseminate, what we have to say is just far greater.
Yeah, let's touch on the fact that you used to do TV. So this is like an easy transition for you.
Right, so I did television here for about 5 years. I was a comedian, and my comedy was in Japanese and everything. And a big part of, I think, the Japanese knowing me, they know me from TV, or they know my TV persona, right? So I'll have elementary school students, their parents that know me. And as I always say, I would always hope that people laugh with me and not at me when I'm doing my comedy. But my comedy also has a meaning, right? So there's typically a learning point culturally. There's a learning point in what I'm doing.
And I think what's unique about this podcast is that the listeners are getting a little bit of everything. They're getting the funny side, they're getting the history, the knowledge. So much is being offered in this one platform, and I think that is amazing for the time that we're in now.
Yes. Because
it's all about the generation right now, and not just the Gen Z, but other generations. They're interested in information now.
Yes, and that attention span is a lot shorter than what we used to do, back in the day, whether it's blogging or when I first started the podcast. And there weren't any visuals, right? It was just a microphone and, me and another person.
Yeah.
So again, I think right now the opportunity to disseminate information is just far greater.
And I think it's so interesting how the type of human connection has changed. Like you just said, back in the day, you just go down the street and you could get your news from Auntie that lives next door.
That's right.
Or you go to church and you find out what the news there, what's going on. But now, because of COVID was a big part of it, it's different, and human connection is, unfortunately and fortunately at times, through social media, and YouTube
Yes.
and podcasts. And we were talking about evolving. It's evolving.
It is, and when I lived in Tokyo, this is prior to me going back to the States for 10 years. When I lived in Tokyo, I had a business plan that someone, actually the guy did TV with Fame, Camille, he was connecting with some folks, and he was like, hey man, you still have your business plan to teach English via the cell phone. So like when 4G technology came out, Docomo, we were teaching English via the cell phone video. And I want to say that I was first. No one else did that in Japan.
I
was first.
I believe you.
Period. Documented. And so my thing was I was able to teach English over a cell phone, and we had people like I think it was Peter Badakan, Saint Camille, and some other folks that foreign personalities, on TV. And we were able to get it out there. And so I've always had that in the back of my mind of using video as a way to educate the masses. And so again, I hope the podcast does that.
Yeah, and I think what's important to note too, we're not saying one side or another. We're providing a lot of different perspectives because we also have guests on the show.
Yes.
And it's just providing those perspectives, which I think is healthy and important, so you can make your own. And I think that's what the world is looking for right now. They're not looking for you to tell them what the truth is.
Right.
They're looking for you to provide information so they can determine.
Yes, they need to form their own opinion.
Yeah.
And with that said, I like to debate, so bring it.
I love it. Yes, I love it. Yeah, and that's what we'll be doing too. We're going to be having fan pages and opportunities for people to tell us what they think.
Right.
On it. But what else do you think the listeners are going to be getting from this podcast?
I would hope they would get something to correct the narrative.
Ooh, okay.
So, again, I'm always trying to provide the rest of the story. And, in every podcast, it's not going to be, history, politics, whatever, right? But my hope is that at the end of every podcast, the listener can walk away and actually have something to use.
Yeah. Right?
That's just, whether it's on the entertainment side or whatever, but I would hope that they can take whatever they heard or whatever they downloaded, that they can use it and improve upon their daily life. Solve a problem, something like that.
Yeah, I love that. And for me, when I think who is this for, I think it's for, like you mentioned, it is for everyone.
Yes.
Not just here in Japan, but for whoever's listening around the world.
Right. My I think on YouTube, I'm at 94% my followers are Japanese. Whereas when I was doing the blog, it was the opposite, right? It was mainly 100% in America, or close to it. But I would love to see the global audience, sort of come back to the platform and everything. And I expect, of course, America and Japan or Japanese, or Americans and Japanese to be the majority of my listeners and everything. But I think just reach to other people that have interest in Japan and to see another side of Japan. If they can get that, it'd be good.
Yeah, I agree. I also think with that, it's for people here too.
Right.
I think what's unique about being here in Japan, you'll be able to come to the store. You'll be able to see us.
Yes.
Like, we will have opportunities where we'll have events and you can have these live conversations with us. And I think that's a plus for being here. And I also think for the world view, we're also not just talking about, like you mentioned, like history and politics and news. We're talking about how to better your life.
Yes.
As well.
Improvement is definitely a big part of it. And it could be something as simple as how to make tea.
Yeah.
Right? And so we sell a variety of products, and that might be the udon tea that's imported from Taiwan, or the craft coffees that we get here in Japan. But why using a particular glass, whether that's coffee, wine, or beer? And so that's a whole new topic right there, to teach people that the glass is important, for example, or why your tea should be made this way at this temperature. And so that's cultural. It could be something as simple as having a guest cook come on and doing. You know, you go out and you see a movie in town, and there's the Japanese subtitles and everything, and you're like, that's not what was said. But there's a lot missed because the interpreter or the translator, you know, culturally does not understand that scene or that situation, for example, right? So for us to be able to say, you know, maybe watch a movie and then give a review on it, like The Color Purple, for example. There's a lot of backlash. You know, there's some backlash as far as people saying the movie does not put us in a good light, or black men in particular, as being, you know, oh, the beast, you know, that type of thing, abusive relationships, dysfunctional families and all of that, where it's the opposite. It gives you, it peels back a layer and gives you the rest of us as a whole, right? That type of thing.
And that's the Afro-Perspective that we were talking about earlier.
Yes.
That's it right there. Providing the whole story. Like, look at it from this way. It doesn't always have to be negative. Look at it from this point of view, because it's real.
Right, it's real, It's
real, it happens. That's the type of topics that we're gonna have on there, and I think that's great. And so when we say, who is this for? It's for everybody, because you're gonna be able to see, okay, someone's gonna be able to relate. This happened to me, or I never knew that happened. Well, now you do, and this is how you can react to it. Or if you know somebody who's going through that, this is the resources. I think that's great too. Black Tokyo as a resource.
Yes, you know, there's like in my DMs, I would get questions about marriage, for example. Back in the day, I had a lot of questions about marriage, and mainly international marriages. You know, Japanese married to black men, in particular. Or just military married to Japanese and not knowing how to navigate. You know, they're out of uniform now, they get their visa, they're gonna live in town. Unbased and off base, totally different animals. And so they deal with what I call the real Japan. There's a wake up call for a lot of these guys, right? That paycheck that you know, the US military used to provide is not the same as that paycheck you might get, let's say if you're teaching English, for example, right? Or doing other things. One way for me to, again, I think get us together, Japanese and you know, Americans specifically, is the 25th anniversary event that we plan to hold in February, right, during Black History Month. So Black Tokyo store will be 1 year old in February. Black Tokyo, the company or the brand, turns, as I said, 25 years old. And so I think holding an event where we can get everyone together to listen to some good music, have some good food, have some good conversation, meet some folks that you typically wouldn't meet, is just a perfect introduction to the brand and what I would like to do, you know, with Black Tokyo.
You know, a song comes to mind. Let me reintroduce myself.
Oh,
you know. We're introducing Black Tokyo to the world, and I love that.
Oh, yes.
So 25 years.
Yes.
Awesome. 5 more years. Where are we?
5 more years, I'm collecting Social Security. 5 more years. Wow. Yes, I'm old. 5 more years. Well, as I mentioned to you earlier, I want a building, right? I want a building so I can control not just my space, but my narrative. Right? So I would love to, of course, have my office space, my retail space, my training space, my entertainment space, and my small food and beverage space. And that's just, that would be just like for me, everything coming together. So it'll be the perfect space for me to be able to, you know, wholesale, retail, provide food and beverage, collaboration space, training space, and just a space for folks to get together and, you know, kind of become one.
I love that. And I definitely see in 5 years this just blowing up to even more than what any of us could imagine, because the need is there.
Yes, I mean, I'm hustling, so I will keep grinding, and I think I'm gonna get it. I know where I was 5 years ago. 5 years ago I was working government, right? Not a bad thing. However, I was just itching to do my own thing. I always like to do my own thing. Even when I was in the Marine Corps, I just want to do my own thing. But I think I'm gonna get it.
Yeah.
And I know I can't do it alone, so I truly appreciate the support. For example, the podcast, I've never had a co-host. And so bringing a woman's touch to the podcast, I think is a big boon for Black Tokyo. You're going to bring a totally different perspective. And I like to debate, so hopefully you'll have some.
Of course.
You know?
Yes.